Here we go, people. This is Dr. Zoo. Dr. Zoo on Monday, 17th of August, 2026, episode number 99. What a great score. 99, everybody. Incredible stuff. Yes, indeed. Well, welcome aboard. We've got people coming left, right, and centre. Oh, Rocket Man has heard music. That's the whole intention. One day we'll be able to play just straight music without even talking to Dr. Zoo. That's our mission. That's our mission. So let's just see how we go. Let's see. I'm going to tackle some questions. We're going to get into the good, the bad, the ugly. That's what we're here for. We take the tough questions on board. We listen to what you've got to say, or write, rather. So let's just tackle this on the go. Bit steamy here in Thailand. Welcome, Thailand. Loud and clear from sunny coast. Fantastic up sunny coast. All over the shop. Balranald, welcome. Welcome, Balranald. Wow, loud. Here we go. I was actually listening to the ABC earlier today, and they have what's called a wind session. It's unbelievable. Couldn't believe it. The ABC, that wokey channel, right out to the left, went back to the right. It was amazing. I enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Although I'm pretty sure the bloke talking about some climate change dribble got cut off early. But that was great. He got to the point where he said it doesn't matter, because where he's sitting, he needs more heat, temperature. That's what was the thrust of where he was coming from. Curious character, your statement. We don't have a question. We have a statement from Curious Character, which is awesome. Hope this AUSTRAC hurries up. Can't believe after all these years waiting, I think that means after all these years waiting, comma, now we get screwed by them. Well, they're not getting screwed by anybody, Curious Character. We are simply waiting. And it's not like you've been waiting for nothing, because the system has been full throttle on the Zucoin to Zucoin wallets, SplitChain, for over 4 years. And the beautiful thing is, which Dr. Zoo keeps reminding everybody, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. The great Ronald Dale Barassi said that, a very good friend of Dr. Zoo's. He's since passed away. We miss him dearly, but a guy, as you may recall, playing for Melbourne and coaching a number of teams, one of the all-time greats. Everything in his life circled around the number 31. 31. It all adds up to 31. And what a true inspiration of a man he was, of which that's firmly embedded into the head of Dr. Zoo. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. So if it's meant to be, get out there and make it be. That's what we can do with a peer-to-peer system and all sorts of things. I had a couple of meetings last week early on Friday with some innovators that are starting to get the axe to the grind, starting to get into the bowels of the organisation, wanting to produce things that they can see the upside of making some serious money post just sitting back, relaxing, waiting on Zutopia. We don't get screwed by AUSTRAC. We just got to behave. We just behave, and we sit back and we say to ourselves, what can we do to help them? If it's meant to be, it's up to me. So we just push that stuff out and we wait. We wait on AUSTRAC. Haven't heard anything negative or otherwise, people, on that front. I've got a sneaking suspicion that we might, given the timeline that we put in play, it would be lovely to think that not too far away we get that big tick, because there are a lot of crypto things crashing and burning around us. Crashing and burning. Now, I heard a funny one the other day. One of the grandkids was watching Ride Like a Girl. What an extraordinary story and movie that is. For those that don't know, that's Michelle Payne, who won on Prince of Penzance, the Melbourne Cup, first woman in history at 100 to 1. Came out and won the Melbourne Cup at 100 to 1. And one of the things in that movie that was dragged to Dr. Zoo's attention was that she was complaining about her brother being in the Melbourne Cup and talking about the horse being last or coming last. And the father, Mr. Payne, he said, well, let me remind you something. If a horse can go from first to last during a race, it can certainly come from last to first. And that's what we're about, because we are certainly circling and coming out of the blocks. Got a couple of nice topics today to talk about, which is the amazing stuff as to where we sit with our collective firepower, as you all are well and truly aware. before I get into that, anyway, have a look at that movie, by the way. It's a great story. For someone that got under so much injuries and all the rest of it, it is a true never give up alligator blood story, a story of never give up. Personally, we haven't been waiting for anything. We have been pushing ahead, building and creating and making it happen while the rest of the crypto space is showing signs of some big cracks on all fronts, whether it be wallets being hacked into. I saw another wallet hacked into over the weekend. You may think that Dr. Zoo has time off, but you know he doesn't. He was with the grandkids yesterday, and what a tough battle that was. Holy dooly. You wouldn't believe it. Never changed so many nappies in all my life. Incredible. But that's for another day. Although, you know, Dr. Zoo could have easily have sat by the edge of a nice beach there in the Bahamas to our Bahamian friends. Just enjoy and soak up what's around you, because if you plonk yourself somewhere else, it may not be as pleasant. You may not get that 25 degrees of that turquoise water and enjoying it. So there you go. Let's have a look. A couple of these questions early. Loud and clear, Sunny Coast, that's fantastic. Point Mackay, Margate in Queensland. Divine Guru, Margate in Queensland. Now there's a spot. I tell you what, we've got some interesting ones. As you may recall, or may not, we have our roving support desk. Pete Allen is floating around up north there, testing out his how many PowerPoints are between Sydney and the tip of the coast, the tip of the point up there, top of Australia, with his electric vehicle. Very fascinating indeed how long that goes for, but he's going very well. And certainly he's actually been meeting with some of our crackerjack Zucoin holders, and they are on fire. They really are. They are on fire. Now, talk about on fire. I thought there was a great analogy. This is not the main story for the day, everybody, but I thought to myself, the collective energy of people is unbelievable. Now, Dr. Zoo took his middle daughter to a marathon down there at Shepparton in Victoria. Bit nervous about crossing the border. Wasn't sure whether I was going to get beat up or not, but Shepparton, lovely spot. What surprised Dr. Zoo is that you get 1,000 people of all like-minded people, and they get together and they are intent on getting through either a 10K run, a half marathon, or the full marathon. So my daughter was doing the full marathon, and I was exhausted. Look, I don't mind admitting Dr. Zoo is not quite ready to go through that phase yet. There were some extraordinary characters running at all levels, and there was no sense of anybody better than anybody else. It was just this amazing, collective, powerful source of energy from these people. Now, you could be fat and skinny or ugly or cute or whatever you want to do, or male or female, and there was an agender as well, an agender. Let you look that up. That agender person won that division, by the way, in a great style and form. So that was awesome. But everybody was on the same page. I haven't seen that in a long time. There was no half empties there, I can assure you. They were all half full. And whether you were big in size or little or tiny, or you had the pram in front of you or whatever it was, you had people cheering. There was husbands cheering wives on and vice versa. And it was amazing. I was blown away. Now, I did get asked the question at one stage because I was very comfortable watching all this happening. And my daughter came home in 4 hours and 3 minutes, by the way, which was her PB. That stands for personal best for those who are not in the industry. And I did get asked about was I okay, because I was onto my third or fourth ice cream. I said, I'm doing my own marathon. In my mind, I'm collectively running with all these people. It starts early too, 7:30 in the morning. Unbelievable. But the beautiful thing is, when you get people on the same page, and this is the essence of the story today, then you can do anything. The group can do anything humanly possible. And they didn't give up. Let me tell you, some people could have been put in an ambulance next to Dr. Zoo on the day, but they didn't get in there. They didn't put themselves into that situation. They got help from others. They got picked up. They got dragged across that line, and the cheering went out and the roar and the excitement. Oh, look, real adrenaline stuff, everybody. Really pumping stuff that happened. And then I thought back, how good is this going to be as we move on from this AUSTRAC scenario into pumped up excitement? Because you leave everything else behind. You leave behind the pain and the grief and your own thought bubbles. And as I said, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And that's what they were doing. That's what they were doing. That was the takeaway that I got from the marathon. Now, it almost inspired me to start walking and running again. Used to do a lot of running in the early days, but not quite yet. So I shifted gears, and of course, by the time we got stuck into the afternoon of the Sunday and handling little critters that were pooing in their pants because of nappies, that really changed the whole dynamic of it. So you can get shifted back into life pretty quick, or you can start to live the dream. Live the dream, and that's what we are doing, because today there's even far greater stories about problems that Dr. Zoo might have missed over the weekend that were brought to his attention this morning. Talk about that in a minute. Let's just see. We've got nice specimen here wanting to discuss a little bit more about the liquidity fund. Well, that'll come for another day, but the idea is that through all sorts of sources, and that's predominantly can be directed through Zutopia, and there's a few bobs surplus. We're looking at surplus. Dr. Zoo has in his mind that a liquidity support fund can be well and truly established. You don't need market makers. You don't need all these guys ripping things off. And all of a sudden, you know, away you go. Now, we've got a beautiful one here. Cheerful companion, you are just exactly what the doctor ordered. You don't want to see how their analogies in life are formed around Zucoins and Zutopia, and you don't want to hear the other bullshit. Well, that's fine. We appreciate your cheerful dissertation of what you think is in your thought bubble, and that's lovely to see, lovely to be put on here, because guess what? You're using that word we too strongly. We is a very strong word, and if you don't want to use the word we, we've got a thing on the site called the press the button to turn me off. Now, isn't this amazing how you can have a collective body and there's always one little loose cannon? There's someone out there in the left field that really is not left to be, it's up to me. That's a we. And that's what they do. Now, nobody's forcing anybody to do anything, because this is the freedom of peer-to-peer and the freedom of Zucoins and Zutopia. And cheerful companion, there you go. That little button is ready for you to press. Press that, and you can enjoy the company of your own voice on some other stage. It's no issue whatsoever. None of this worries Dr. Zoo at all. It's all about trying to show cheerful companion that when you build the body of people together with the same like-minded thought bubbles, there's no stopping what you can achieve. You've just got to weed out the weeds. That's why we have weed killers. We kill the weeds and we end up with lush green grasses. And those lush green grasses turn into fantastic things for the betterment of everybody else. Like, for example, you might have some nice lucerne hay that turns into a bundle of energy for a racehorse that can come back and win like Prince of Penzance and be going from last to first, which is what today's all about. So, cheerful companion, stay with us, stay with us. I know it's difficult times without Dr. Zoo having to spell it out, but the spelling out of the program is all about how we move forward as a collective powerhouse group of people, like-minded Zuconians, all here for the big dream and what we want to do and the outcome. And I know you're thirsty. You are thirsty for some action that will change your life forever. But as I said, some people actually, I haven't reminded people this, but there's a couple of psychologists that have suggested that Dr. Zoo is quite good for relaxing therapies late at night. If you listen to the replays on zucoins.com, you will find it might even put you to sleep. And that means there's a positive wave of energy that comes out of that, which is huge. Now that we've covered the scenario and where we are at and what we're doing, let's talk about Zucoins and SplitChain coming from last to first. How do we say that with any ease and comfort? Well, look at a couple of developments that have happened. Now, Binance, an extraordinary company in its own right. At its peak, $12 billion. People doubted Dr. Zu some years ago. Doubted Dr. Zu. Wait a minute. I'm going to give a little bit more airtime to Cheerful Companion. We only listen to your podcast, Alan, about Zucoins and Zutopia, not racehorses or the political issues. Well, don't listen, because you're going to get covered with many things over the journey. There's a lot of things. Everything in life affects Zucoins or Zutopia, Cheerful Companion. So if it hadn't been for horse races, then Dr. Zu wouldn't have placed another $7 or $8 million of tax-free money into Zucoins and Zutopia. You wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be talking about this. I like taking those risks. You take those risks, you derive benefits from tax-free monies legally and properly, and they impact upon the development. They impact upon development. And that's why, after many millions of dollars later, Zutopia is sitting in box seat, because we knew at the time there are some big industry problems, the way in which things happen in these exchanges. Now, I was just starting to talk about one, which is Binance. Now, Binance has had its fair share of problems. It's had an extraordinary amount of issues, including another big exchange, which is called Gemini. Now, you may recall, just for those that aren't aware, but Gemini was the Twinklevoss boys, that is the twins that were in the movie Social Network. And they got screwed over by the great man Mark Zuckerberg and got paid out a few bob, because they started the innovation of what they thought was going to be the next Facebook, and he went his own merry way. So he's got millions and billions later, and they've got little billions and millions later. But they did set up Gemini. Now, there's been a real issue, because Gemini has just reported a $16.1 million provision for, guess what? Yes, indeed, credit card losses. Credit card losses, because they took on the risks of naughty people using the cards and the frauds that Dr. Zu had talked about way back. And the key problem with that, identity fraud. Identity fraud. So the provisions have been increased. Total transaction losses in Gemini rose to 20.1 million, and they're now in trouble in Europe. Now, as I said, Dr. Zu may not be Nostradamus, but I tell you what, he's been learning a lot from Nostradamus about the issues that were confronting these exchanges, because the core engines behind them were not set up properly. People weren't waiting. People were just out and about wanting for their own glory in terms of massive profits and speculation and gains and all those things that have occurred. And of course, now we see that if you haven't got the card business on side, then Gemini's got to put up its revenue positions, either increasing those revenues or alternatively increasing the reserves to cover those losses. And Dr. Zu lost 80,000. Doesn't sound a lot when we did the soft launch in Zutopia, but if you multiply the numbers and you want to exceed and get to $1,000 a coin plus, so that's Dr. Zu's vision, the collective energy that we just talked about, the marathon. We're all running a marathon here. We're not in a sprint. We're not here for the Everest. We are here for the Melbourne Cup. Hey, isn't that amazing how that sort of brought that together for Cheerful Companion? Now, that's interesting. That's interesting analogies. People get in their mind analogies. Analogies are fantastic, because Zucoins and Zutopia is about a marathon. And we're coming to the pointy end of that marathon. We're coming to the winning post against all odds, against all these other exchanges that are now starting to whittle away and die. Now, what do we say that about Binance? Because guess what? Binance announced over the weekend, which is not very nice. It's not very nice at all. But Binance, in order to comply with the EU sanctions, because it doesn't have a license yet, remember that? The MiCA licensing. We're not caught by that. Zutopia has a free ride into global expansion through Europe, South America, North America, Canada, Asia, Singapore, all those exciting spots, because we've done the hard yards. We've done the marathon. Can you believe that? We have done the marathon and we will be getting the rewards. But Binance now, as a result of that, got itself in trouble. Got itself in real trouble, that in the last week alone, now this doesn't include freezing people's accounts and all sorts of stuff, This is simply a case where they have now made the decision to stop processing transactions for at least 11 to 16 other exchanges. They're going to block deposits, withdrawals, and transactions. Now, some of these are naughty exchanges. A couple of them are trying to deal with Russia, so that's a no-go zone area there. You don't want to do that because you're going to get sanctioned. You're going to get sanctioned unless there is a solution in Europe between Ukraine and Russia. That's a real problem. And they're delisting tokens as well. They're not giving any opportunity for the tokens to stay listed. So you can have this wonderful asset. You might have made $100 million. Could have had your Zucoins listed on these things, and next thing you can't get A, the money out, B, you can't get money on, and C, it's all vaporized in any event because the exchanges underlying those transaction volumes have just died a sudden death. Now, one of the exchanges that's been affected by Binance's action was actually one of the biggest exchanges in the world at the time. Remember, Binance has been pumping out about $12 billion turnover a day. In theory, they should be making at least $120 million a day, and they probably are, because the little fella, CZ, remember him? He spent 4 months in jail, paid a $4 billion fine for being naughty. We don't want to be naughty. That's because, they're getting, Binance said we're getting screwed by the US regulators. Remember that word, screwed? We had that shared to us from Cheerful Companion earlier. He was on the money, and he made that decision, CZ did, and next thing he got 4 months jail and a $4 billion fine because he didn't want to follow the roadmap, didn't want to follow the processes. We have, and we are, and we're very comfortable as a result of that to put this in place. But next thing, here we go. Look at this, Binance. Now they get rid of another exchange which is underlying what they're doing, and that's called HTX, Huobi Global. Gonski. Now that's millions and millions of people affected. Now HTX might be naughty in its own right or whatever, or Binance is looking for a reason to justify its licensing into Europe because that didn't work. They tried to sneak in the back door there. From memory, I think it was back through Greece. Greece said, oh, back off, big fellas. We can't cope with this sort of application. That's going to have to go through the main European bodies or find another jurisdiction. So we are ahead of the game in that front because we don't have to worry about that as a result of the platform we've built. That is, Zutopia doesn't take any coins on board as custodialship, doesn't even want to know about your money, wants to protect as much as we can people from losing coins through bad wallets, through bad decisions, through hacking. There was another hacking case just on the weekend again. It just goes on and on. There's too many to report. If you guys look up one of the Grok or one of the great AIs that are out and about and just put in there crypto problems and losses, it'll light up like a Christmas tree. This is what we talk about. This is why it's not always a good idea to be the first horse that's leading the pack, because you can go from last to first. And I've seen it. I have seen it in real life, how that can work. And the long shots get up because they take time and they're patient. Now, HTX at one stage, it had massive inflow of monies in terms of its market processes and transactions. It's sitting on about 60 million users, and now we've got a 60 million user problem because Binance cuts out, and then there you go. All of a sudden, there is another round of problems. But that's just one of 16 that are now in trouble because of that far-reaching decision over the weekend by Binance. And no matter how much pleading you do, they have their own internal operations, they have their own problems, they have their own issues with global regulators, and all of a sudden they have to make these decisions that then affect everybody else that could be innocently on the sidelines and trying to seek liquidity and processing through those exchanges. That's why we're happy. We're happy. We're happy to get the free audits effectively from AUSTRAC. We're happy to go through the motion, and we're happy to collectively pull together that massive energy that far outweighs the stragglers that are in the Zucoin community, just like the marathon on the weekend. So that's why it's important to understand the collective force and power behind a group of people that are on the same page, which is fantastic. So we don't. You can always shut out the negative stuff. That's fantastic to do. Dr. Zoo has a different approach, though. I like to sort of, if there's some stuff that comes in the door which is negative, it's more about understanding it in case it impacts upon things that we need to change and do, because that's more important in the longer term. And that's why we don't want to end up like these exchanges that are now having all these regulatory problems. And I did circle back to Gemini. You cannot sustain a business if you've got credit risks that are happening on scale. Generally, the consumer doesn't care, but the consumer pays for it. You don't realise. Every time there's these big stories of banks paying penalties and card companies paying penalties and processors paying all this sort of reversals and risks, or the merchants have to wear the costs, you pay for it. This is the absurdity of the consumer world. You think it doesn't affect your life. It does. Everything you do is then subsequently pushed into some increase in costs that relate to you. Why do you think we have these processes where if there's a bank issue, you end up paying higher interest rates? It's not mandated that you get the benefit. You pay the cost. If you're a shareholder already today, I was listening to some of the snippets that were coming out of Parliament from our little mates in there, and they're arguing over superannuation. I mean, superannuation should be sacrosanct. It was designed for the protection of people in retirement. And if that means that retirement includes buying a house as a result of the super fund because you've had tax breaks, well, then preserve that. If not, set the gold lines. Put the posts up. Make sure we know where the goals are. That's exactly what I was talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about. Because if you can understand the rules and follow those and move within those goalposts, then you've got a greater chance. And how do we know this? Because Dr. Zoo has seen it for 30 years. He's been on the fighting side of looking at those goalposts. That's the story. It's all on the website. There's no secrets about Dr. Zoo, I can assure you. If you go to zucoins.com, you will see the history, the background, the stories. It's all relevant. It's all relevant to the journey, the collective journey, the marathon that we're currently on, which is awesome. That's why we don't want to end up like Gemini. Now you can come out of that blocks and you can be quick and early and you can make billions of dollars and you get into the Bitcoin and then boom, there you go. There you go. You end up with a problem. And we don't want a $16 million or a $20 million reserve. And just remember too, Coinbase has got reserves about 150 million in terms of the risks because people are naughty. Inherently, they're naughty. You don't just have a fraud in credit card, which affects transactions around the world based on outright fraud. You also have what they call the friendly fraud. Now, for those that aren't aware of it, that's where, generally, humans that are certainly wanting to comply with the laws in the world, they buy some goods online, and I've even heard this being done actually with buying food through Uber and stuff. Now, this is a true story. I'm not going to say who it is or what it is, but I have heard through the grapevine that there are people out there that order food and say they didn't get it or it wasn't good enough, and then they get a refund, but they still eat the food. Now, how bad's that? And then the credit risk goes with the merchant, and the merchant's got to pay the staff, and he's got to cook there, and he's working his ass off, and all the rest of it, because consumers can be naughty. Consumers can be naughty. So that's the problem with that. And that risk is then flowing directly into the businesses, which is the risk that Zutopia has worked out on a scale that decided, well, we don't want to be part of that. We want people to buy and sell in volume. We want to see if we can emulate the early days of these exchanges and emulate it in a way that turns over billions of dollars a day. Because guess what? If there's more trading, more demand, the quantity theory of money formula kicks into big time gear, and that just means one outcome. If you're lucky enough as an early adopter and you've been patient, which we know that for sure that Cheerful Companion has been patient. He's a patient, cheerful person, desperately wanting to be part of the action and move on, which we all do, then you will get the benefits of that, because that means that there is no risks profiling, including the reporting of those transactions to AUSTRAC. Because otherwise, yes, it could be that we don't want Australians to be left out of this action phase that we're coming into. The old horse coming from last to first, that's us. Now, when you tease that out even more, it got even more interesting just this morning, hot off the press on the back of the Binance update, which is, again, not suggesting there's Nostradamus here, but we did talk about the basis upon which we were building the entire Zucoin, SplitChain, Zucas, the ZuVision, which you can see on the website, and you can read about it from more updates from myzucoins.org, which is the brainchild and the direct feed into the brain of our CTO, Robert Novak. We had a great meeting today. There's a lot of incredible bits and pieces that are coming into the wallet as well. Won't affect Zutopia in the short term, but it's going to affect your Zucoin wallets in the long term as to how powerful that is for your protection. That's what we're here for. Because the last thing we want is a lot of half glass empties running around complaining that the system lost this or did that when it's your own fault, because it is your sovereign control over the wallets. Back up, and guess what? Back up. If you do that, you will be able to restore your wallets and you will be able to maintain the ownership of your coins. If you don't, give yourself a kick in the butt, because it's your fault. Your fault. That's what happens. And unlike the other processes in the crypto digital space, currently that's what's costing hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. The FBI is running around looking at $300 billion ripped off through crypto scams in this first quarter of 2026, by the way. I mean, they're busy. They're flat out. They're trying to work out all the con jobs that are going on, and then it circles back to exchanges and your listings, and that's why Zutopia is a clean, fresh breath of fresh air, because you deal directly with the other person, the buy and the sell. And how can we do that? For those that got a short memory, do a transaction, and you will see the two-factor authentication is the only crypto in the world that does a transaction confirmation between a buyer and seller. And that signature, that cryptographic signature, goes into the split chain. And as you may recall, we don't need to collect the great wall of Bitcoin of information. Split chain takes the last transaction and the balance, caches that, bit like a library book. It tells you that it's there, and that truth can be found, and that means that the transaction can't have a double spend, and it can mean that you get certainty of the transaction. You can download a wallet anytime you like. There'll be nice little things changing in the wallet space too, by the way, so that we don't have these con artists running around trying to pretend that they're part of us, and you end up getting sucked into transferring coins to something that's not real. You don't have seed phrases. We saw what's happened recently with that. Cold card. What a train wreck. 2 disasters in 1 week. One is people smashed the seed phrases, so $130 million was lost. Here you are. You go to bed at night and you think you're on a roll, and you got your nice hard drive wallet tucked away, your cold storage, and you turn it on and it's all gone. There's a great story of a young bloke lost 1.6 million, had to face and tell his wife that it's all gone. The house, everything, boom, gone, because of the structure of the underlying technology was wrong. The randomness of the selection of the words was a gaping hole in that system. And then, just for good measure, they send out 40,000 new hard wallets or hard drives, whatever you call them, chips, doesn't matter, cold storage wallets. And the shipping container company's got all the information about everybody, and that gets stolen. Another gaping hole. So suddenly they're going to try and impose and pretend who they are by virtue of having that information, emails, all the rest of it. And another scenario of loss of crypto and wealth. So here we are, perfecting all this, bringing it together, getting our independent audit from AUSTRAC. We've got the Australian Financial Review Awards lurking in the background. We'll wait and see how that pans out. We made stage 2. Be lovely to be in the finalist stage. We'll see what the powers of be think of that. We're not too concerned about it, but it'd be nice to think that there's that recognition which is back-ended with the regulator on AUSTRAC. Now, I have talked, and people don't want to listen sometimes, I have talked at length about the importance of productivity. And it's starting to come home to roost. Remember those chickens we talk about? The roosting chickens. Well, just the other day, look, and this is pretty hot off the press, but just the other day, People are starting to talk about the collapse of the crypto because there's no productivity. Can you believe it? There we were, Dr. Zoo, the lone wolf, out and about, talking about, forget about speculation. That's one element to the crypto space. It's about productivity, tokenization. It's about how you can create and use the value of the product itself through real-world asset tokenization. The scalability, the capacity to handle it, all those things that we just can't be bothered talking about. And what happens? The CEO of Bitwise, Hunter Horsley, he comes out and says this is the only, and he also was backed up by his CIO, Matt Hogan, who did a full analysis on this, and it's worth having a look if you can pick it up, because what they're saying, now the Bitwise, a little bit of an exchange out there, it's got its own problems. It is not, it's got a lot of things happening behind the scenes, and they're looking for this productivity. Productivity simply means, as it would suggest, products that can be traded, not just speculation, not just out there to make a quick buck or trying to rip someone else off or scam it or whatever else has been going on, and the speculation on prices and the Solanas that aren't worth, the products that they're produced on, and they don't want gas fees, they're making money on revenues. And guess what? At the end of the day, the market is now shifting from market cap rankings and speculation, from straight leaderboards of what these things are doing, a bit like the HOC2 coin. Remember that one? The HOC2 coin. That's one of the delightful ones. That young girl, she HOC2'd too much, and the coins in 24 hours dropped $490 million. 490. The good old Trumpy coin, that's been out and about. I think they've lost $3.1 billion on that one because it does nothing. There is no utility. There is no value. And now the market is saying we are desperately looking for products or the back-end protocol, and let me tell you, there's only one split chain in the world. They're all built on blockchain, which means they've got a lot of problems. They've got a lot of problems with energy, a lot of problems with climate emissions if you're into that space. They've got enormous problems with costs in producing an outcome, which is simply there to validate transactions like Bitcoin through the miners. Proof of work or proof of stake. It is a real problem. And the only way they're making money is basically pump and dumps, creating this stuff, the ape coin and all those sort of little trinkets that came out of the blocks. And then you look at it and do nothing with it. It's worth zero. Dr. Zoo is on record many years ago. If you go to zucoins.com, you will see the stories that Dr. Zoo has written about both the exchange in combination with these products that of no value to Dr. Zoo if you want to create circulation and demand between both merchants and consumers on a scale that's unheard of. Now, Hunter Horsley, the CEO of Bitwise, comes out and he says, we need products and protocol and technology in the digital space where you get real adoption and usage. My goodness, who's been singing on the same song sheet as that? Eh? Well, I tell you now, he's feeling pretty buoyant. He's ready to do a marathon. He's ready to get out there and win the big race. He's ready to pull in some of that firepower. Can you believe it? Real adoption and usage. Now, to get real adoption, you've got to make it user-friendly. You've got to have mass adoption. We've ticked that box, people. You can get a wallet anytime you like, 24/7. You can download, you can back up, you can bring it back into play. You'll also soon see, if you look in your wallet, the Zucoin wallet, you'll see there's a little icon there, which is Zutopia. Now, that little sucker represents one merchant at the moment. That is Zutopia being the exchange, which you can readily connect straight through. You don't need any logins. We don't take your private data. We can't get hacked in the data. Stripe has all of the KYC stuff. We just have a login that's connected to the public wallet address of your Zucoin wallet. Eventually, there will be things called mini apps, which is merchants can come in. They can verify their Zucoin wallets. You will get certainty as to who you're dealing with. You will know what's real and what's fake. And you will be part of this real adoption and usage, because it goes well beyond worrying about charging gas fees and fees on the tokens, which is how they make their money. Challenge Dr. Zoo. Go out and have a look at all these blockchain protocols and see how they derive their money. and it's all about sucking fees. They're no different to MasterCard and Visa. They're no different to the banks. Fees and fees and fees. You can transfer a fraction of a Zucoin to 32 decimals. 0 fees, because the business model is not built on deriving fees. Not to say if you don't, if you have a wonderful product, like you might be, if she's listening, and be fantastic if she was, but if Taylor Swift wanted to increase her wealth, then rather than having a deal with EMI and on her songs, she could use her 200 million plus supporter base, and they could be subscribing to a song every month for $8.99 or $1.99, and that could be a tokenized Zucoin, and that particular Zucoin could last for as long as Taylor wants to be part of it. And she can set the schedule and the agenda of how long her song is out. She could release it directly to a database. She doesn't need a third party to sit there and suck all the fees out of her. And she would be even more seriously wealthy than ever. You imagine it. 200 million people renewing through a Zutoken subscription once a month, even if it was only $1. That's 200 millions of dollars. Millions, people, millions of dollars. Now there is the race of a lifetime. There is the true marathon. That out of the blocks comes the humble SplitChain and Zucoins, because it has productivity. It has what the market is now aching for, what the Bitwise CEO, Hunter Horsley, desperately wants to see in this new cycle of crypto. Not speculation and carrying on about it and pretending that the Coinbase leaderboard is great because the Trumpy coin hit a peak of $3.9 billion and now it's worth nothing because you can't do anything with it. And how do we know this works beautifully with the tokens? Because we know from the hard work and the marathon that we've been running with Zukaz allows that connection between merchants and consumers that can be tokenized. And you get the value of what the merchant's desperately trying to share with you, whether it's all sorts of toothpaste or products or drink or restaurant, wineries, could be anything, products and services from legal firms and all, whatever tickles your fancy can be plowed into that token value that you can either redeem directly to the merchant, so you get the value, not Mark Zuckerberg, not Google, not Meta, not Instagram, none of those aggregators. They've had their day. They've had their fun in the sun. That's how they've created billion-dollar propositions and all the rest of it with their values and share market caps. We don't need the fees. We need people to come in now and grab hold of a number of coins, Zucoins, fractionalize them, and then all of a sudden they get the return of those coins, because if you're going to redeem them, they go straight back to the hands of the merchant. That's where the quantity theory of money formula comes into play, everybody. That is the differential that now is seeing where the market wants to be, where there needs to be what they're saying. And this is produced by Matt Hogan. Remember I mentioned him. He's the CIO of Bitwise, and he had a document that was produced just recently, as in a few days ago. He wants it to become a massive asset-driven marketplace, not reliant upon fees relating to the transaction. Now, they won't be able to do it because the blockchain doesn't lend itself. It needs these machines and engines to process the transaction. So before you can even move $5 between a merchant and a consumer, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from Harry and Guru next door with their coffee, at no cost to them. And there's the ad. There's the $5, and you pick it up and you redeem it, or you put it onto Zutopia to trade. Before you can even think about that, the other blockchain competitors won't come within a bull's roar. They can't come within a bull's roar because they've got this massive mining equipment that's costing $80,000 per Bitcoin that has to be processed or earned, and it's trading at 62,000 US. They're going broke. Now they're shifting into AI. Now, if that shift continues, you can have all the Bitcoin in the world you like. You may not be able to move it because there's no one there to validate and process. Are you starting to get the picture? This is the marathon of a lifetime. We're not just running 42.2 Ks, people. We're out there running 100 Ks at full throttle. Full throttle. because it's working right now, right here, right now. That process is being fully operational. Zucoin wallet to Zucoin wallet. Absolutely staggering. Absolutely staggering on the scalability that can happen. And if that message goes direct from merchant to consumer in your pockets, you've got two choices. You can go and get the coffee for $5, or you can on-sell it and make $1 or $2. Taylor Swift could have an army, a legion of 200 Swifties, 200 million Swifties running around, creating tokens, on-selling, on-moving. It's an army. We're talking a force, a power of people that have collectively come together just in her little world. Now, she may not be driven by money. She might want to give it away. She might decide that cancer research is a great thing. She might decide that the Blind Society is fantastic. She might decide to take on humanity all over the place. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, you're not sitting there waiting on developers or others to make a killing on gas fees with Ethereum. You're not sitting there trying to make fees out of the other blockchains, because the system was deliberately built without fees for that reason. And we're delighted. We are thrilled. The dev team, Robert and his team, that's how we can make Zutopia work. How do you think we can get an off-chain experience with no money sitting in an exchange? They need your crypto in their exchange. They're making money off your crypto. They're making money off your money. That's how they make money. Money, money, money. That's not required when it comes to Zutopia, because you do the transactions and you make it happen. What we can do, as we said, is make a bucket load based on the anonymous data that sits underneath that gives the ability for people to communicate directly, and you won't even do it with the other cryptos, wallets and things. They're already going pear-shaped. They're already, are in serious doo-doo land. Speaking of doo-doos, I mention earlier about the doo-doos on the weekend with the grandkids? Yeah, I think I did. That's why I was talking about doo-doos. There is a correlation between the doo-doos of the grandkids and the correlation between the doo-doos of the crypto space, where people are in trouble because they haven't had the core designed properly from the ground up. They're built on sand. And we are thrilled with where we sit right now. And we just don't sit back waiting for AUSTRAC, by the way. There's just a little update on the Zutopia. Dr. Zoo was playing around again, not on the weekend because he's busy with doo-doos, but certainly Friday night and the team, there will be another version, an enhanced version, an enhanced look and feel of the Zutopia out on Thursday. We don't need to do that, but Dr. Zoo wanted to see a bit more colour, so that going half blind and looking at the trades, I decided that little green circles with crosses in them and little red circles with negatives in them would be far more usable for Dr. Zoo's generation, that at a glance can say, wow, that's a buy or sell. You may not know what I'm talking about, but you'll see it after Thursday with the testers. Testers will be having a certain big crack at that. And that's where we want to be in terms of that space, because then you can see the transactions, because they will relate directly to what you end up buying and selling, not just Zoo coins, but also the Zoo tokens, which will become a huge powerhouse engine of the entirety of the whole process. And I'll just remind you, it's worth looking. If you can get hold of the Bitwise guys, and they're not stupid, they know where they're getting their bread and butter from, because they need turnover. If they don't do that, they end up like the other 2,800 exchanges in Europe that are no longer with us. They're gone, gonski. Not just because of regulatory reasons, but they can't make money because there is not the firepower there of what they need to make money in terms of turnover. If you've got the product, you've got the turnover, look out, Christmas time. And that's why they're suggesting in this report, if you look at it, they're saying that they need far greater acceleration of global payments without the fees. Now, that's hard to do. I'd invite you to think about all of the different processes and payment processes and banks and credit card institutions. Every single one of them reports in relation to its generation of revenue through fees. Or they have a sidekick. They have a sidekick called revenue through advertising. And that becomes ugly. The bots get out there and about, the AI gets out and about. You don't even know what you're looking at anymore. You don't know what's real, what's not real. But you can, through Zoo coins, through tokens, through SplitChain, in a world first, you can take advantage of what Robert did for 9 months or 7 months with the notifications, because it goes instantly between sender and receiver. That is a game changer. That is where we want it to be at the end of December of 2025. I was so excited about that. That was one of the big ones. That was one of the big wings, but there's plenty more coming as well. By the time you guys relax and enjoy your hard-earned returns that you're desperately seeking, which would be fantastic, there'll be a new wave of Zuconians. The marathon we're talking about running will be more of a baton race. You'll be passing the baton to others, and they will be carrying on the marathon, 100%, at different levels, higher levels, better levels, more transactions, more products, more things to get excited about. Suddenly you'll end up with a collection of collectibles that you'll want. You'll want to have the ability for you to control what merchants you want to see, who you want to hear from directly through notifications. You won't get bored. You'll be looking at this stuff 24/7. You'll have gamification as part of it. You'll be competing with people. You will be playing with their heads. I can assure you, as what Dr. Zeus pointed out, quite historically correct as it's turning out right now, especially having read this report about the damage that's been done to the crypto space because they can't produce anything that's viable, and the implications of this shift that they want to see happening. We're here. We're here to take the lead. We're here to hit the front. We're down to that last 50 metres, and we are flying. We are flying like alligator blood did. Don't you worry about the analogies. You leave that here, cheerful companion. You'll be cheerful, all right. Don't you worry. You will be up and about as you realise the power of what can happen when you bring these things together. Don't forget, Dr. Zoo's got a lot on his plate. He wants to do the lottery. Hundreds of millions of people, 24 hours, 7 days a week, tokenising the lottery. That is a powerhouse engine. There's $330 billion in the English one right now as we speak. They're banking $12 billion a month. And guess what? You don't lose the principal. We help the gambling fraternity by protecting and preserving your principal. You only lose the value of the interest, which is no big deal if you want to be in a multi-million-dollar draw each and every month. We'd like to think we could do that each and every week, each and every day. You'll be off your tree. You won't know where to go, who to turn to. That doesn't include what gets Dr. Zoo really tingly, and that is tokenization. Of course, he'll have to be regulated. He understands the problems and pressure, but good legal teams can put this in play. And we're talking about takeovers and acquisitions and mergers. That's a real buzz trip. That's getting high on that sort of space. Yes, that's where you want to take over these companies. You hope that there's a big collapse coming. You want to see 1987 repeated in 2026. It might be 2027. It could be the anniversary. Whichever way it goes, you want to be ready that these companies have got massive, strong balance sheets, still got recorded profits. You can increase the profits by using the takeover mechanisms of tokenization, which gives a direct interest into the company. You don't need to list them because you list the tokens. Suddenly the companies save massive monies on fees and charges. When you list a company, by the way, you don't wake up one morning and say, gee, that's nice, it's trading. You've got to think of the poor old board and the directors. They're copying it left, right and centre. They're taking the risks. Those blokes can go to jail at any time, tick of the clock. And then we start whinging about how much they get paid. Well, as far as Dr. Zoo's concerned, if you're running a company the size of BHP and you're getting paid $50, $100 million, you deserve it. Why whinge about it? If the capitalization's there and the value's there and the returns are there, put up with it. Because someone is taking the risk on not going to jail based on that compensation. Unlike our furry friends out there in Parliament, our little wonderful creatures in the Senate. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you sit on, Labor, Liberal, Socialist, doesn't matter. Wherever you sit in Parliament, you get a shield around you. You don't need to worry about losing $4 billion here and there. Been some glorious times over the journey. Pink bats always comes to mind. $4 billion of pink bats, 3 or 4 deaths, and we still have the great man, Midnight Oil, Peter Garrett, giving advice on nuclear power. The most extraordinary concept on planet Earth. But if you started to make them accountable to everything they do, then it becomes a level playing field. and the journey changes. But for us, that journey is huge if you bring it into play with tokenization. I can't press this enough, especially having read this stuff. I mean, they're trying to say they're going to focus on the platform of Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid, it does nothing other than create revenues through its platform, almost centralization, through fees. The days have got to stop, people. It's got to be value propositions that go direct for consumers and merchants, which is what can happen. And we're not saying that Zucoins or Zucas rather is going to be the only one putting this into play. There are already people coming thick and fast to Dr. Zoo with some extraordinary ideas. Unbelievable. Had one on Friday. Unbelievable. Couldn't believe it. Out of left field. And they will make money. They will make a poultice of money. This is how it works. If I look at Zucas, that's one avenue, but that should be only the small trigger. It's the ideas trigger. It'll get people thinking, and they are thinking. They're starting to realise the type of products that can come with proof of ownership, where you are in control of the transfer. That is you, the sender, and you, the receiver. That is one of the most ingenious parts of the entire product. It's incredible. It's incredible. The split chain nodes, they'll be running around like, I was thinking about it because we come back to the marathon, and in the marathons, they have these pacemakers, and they have different times that are set. And some of them are, pretty exciting, really. There was one pacemaker there at 1 hour and 45, and there's another one at 2 hours and 30, and 3 hours 30, and 5. Now, I thought the bloke that was running around with the 500, I thought Dr. Zoo might actually be able to fall behind him because I thought he was talking about it taking 5 days. But no, he's talking about 5 hours. Now, the pacemakers are very reminiscent in Dr. Zoo's mind, like Zucoins and Zucas. We can set the pace. We can set this up so that people will start to slot in behind and start to build their products based on what's been led to them. Is that amazing? That is phenomenal. And those particular pacemakers, they really steered the traffic. And there was one at the very end, the sweepers. You ever heard of a sweeper? Well, the sweepers remind me of a lot of the sort of force that happens within the Zucoin world. We've got those little stragglers that, they tend to sort of be the half-assed, glassy ones, and they want to be part of the run, but they don't really want to push themselves too hard. So they sit back a bit. But you do have a sweeper, and the sweeper makes sure you get over the line. That's what we're here for. That's what we do in Dr. Zoo's world. We have our sweeper teams, and the sweeper teams give you that little jig along. Forget about worrying about the time and all that sort of stuff. It's only Dr. Zoo that's burning a hole through his back pocket when the time delays occur. But there's an outcome. There is an end goal, which that end goal is the finish line. That's the marathon we're in. That's why it's important to understand exactly the totality of the system and the excitement that is coming with that. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing, people. Well, I'll just tackle a couple more questions here, if we've got them. They seem to have gone cold. They've gone quiet. People are having a bit of a thing about here. One question there that's interesting is Zucoin's Zutopia unhackable? Now, you could never say there's 100% guarantee on anything except for death. In fact, I did talk to some people out of the marathon that there's one outcome that we all agree on. At some stage, everybody is going to look exactly like everybody else. There'll be either the big bag of bones in the 6 foot under hole, or there will be the little pot of cremation, the burnings in the little bottles. But we all look the same. So it's the journey that leads up to that that's important. So that's the only thing that Dr. Zoo can think of that is guaranteed, the way we're going to end up looking. Now, post that, some of us will go to heaven and have eternal life, and others will have eternal hell. No matter for you. Others will be, not sure what others will be doing, but that's just a matter of what you believe in. And I can tell you now, the world that we are in there is no certainty 100% that Zucoins or Zutopia is unhackable. We're doing our best. We can put mechanisms in place that we're very happy with. Now, also, that commentary's got to be in the context of what are you referring to? The nature of the product itself, or the fact that you leave your phone around or you leave your passcode on the desk and suddenly your phone is picked up and someone has already taken your Zucoins because you left your accessibility open for them to get it. That means it's hackable. So you'll never get 100% certainty on being hackable in the hands of people. What you can do is you have to protect as much as you can, as we do in creating the product in the first instance. That's really, see how we go with that. But yes, especially, which is why we're accelerating through Robert, the program of 2026 being the year of releasing the upgraded quantum protective safety mechanisms in the wallet, because it's going to be a game changer for people that are going to be looking to claim lots and lots of losses from somebody. Everybody looks for someone else to carry on about their problems. It's just human nature. That's how it is. And sadly, that's going to be a burden that if the banks and things don't get their act together, and even the crypto space particularly, where we're seeing all this breakdown in hacking and stuff now, that happens, well, what hope we got? Because you don't put yourself in a position that you've planned this out. Now, we'd been planning this out, the thought processes, the strategies, the entirety of the way in which Robert wanted to build out, because you just can't switch over to another gear and change the in the way in which the back end of a system works. There's a migration issue and all sorts of problems that occur in the data technology businesses. And that's why they have these legacy systems in banks, because they turn out to be a nightmare. They can't just transition people across to new systems. It is a train wreck. But we have mapped that out as early as 2022, 2021, when we've had the first processes about quantum. Because once you change that over, you are sitting sweet in terms of the next level of what's coming, which is a ugly combination of AI and quantum computing. And don't be surprised that you see the way in which this will operate is a real problem. But, you know, what the heck? You don't care if you haven't got shares in CommBank. You just want to be paid out from CommBank at their loss. That increases the, or reduces the profits rather, and that impacts possibly the superannuation funds and retirees and others that have put it into it. So, you know, if you look at Grandma today, you wonder why she can't get into a home. That's because you've had a problem with your crypto space and you've sought a refund from the banks who you blame, and that turns out to be Grandma's retirement fund. There you go. See, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Newton's third law. You can apply that to anything. Anything. I take you on. I take that challenge on for you to have a look at that at all times, because that's the way, sadly, the world works. But for us, we're focused. We are on this incredible journey. I had some other thoughts in relation to, and winding down here now, but some of the impact that we can do as a result of anticipation of the AUSTRAC success. And one of the things I think Dr. Zu will do is obviously not just only turning on Zutopia and giving you guys a wonderful sense of achievement and getting into it. Whatever the price is, that's what it'll be. Not too fussed about that. The long-term supply and demand issues will take care of that. But I was thinking that we might actually push harder on the banking systems as to how powerful Zutopia is with Zucoins upon receipt of that registration, and get it out and about to their HQs on all the banks that stop carrying on about crypto, because if you've got these products, which is what Zucoins has been specifically and safely secured as a non-financial product for many years now, in combo with the Zutopia AUSTRAC registration, that they should be well and truly aware of the processes and the success of that, and not treat this space with the disdain that they do. We did a little test on the weekend. Well, not Dr. Zu, but the boys did. And they moved small sums of money around the bank system with a number of banks, with various referencing in those transfers, only small amounts. and it's amazing the transfers that got knocked back versus those transactions that went through from the banks because of their AI and technology they use to identify keywords that related to crypto. So that was a very fascinating little survey, but more importantly, we want the world to know just how strong the entire process is from start to finish, and the protections and the consumer-driven protections because of the way in which you trade with each other, and the way in which we don't hold anything, which is delightful. Delightful. Best business model ever. So we don't want... So in conjunction with that, we're thinking about some of the main leading newspapers as to letting people know exactly where we stand when that registration comes through. So a few ideas have been bandied around with our advisors, and that's one of the ones is to put banks on notice front and centre that don't go playing around with what we've got on the pretext that you think or may suspect or carry on about your concerns in crypto, because crypto is just like anything else. Whether you get a ripe banana or a apple when you go to Coles and Woolies, you either leave it there or you bring it home or you seek a refund if you end up crook, then we want the banks to be on notice that there is nothing that's not correct about what's been built and has journeyed its way through over the last, well, since 2018, since April 2018. So on that happy note, people, have a great one. Again, soon as we get anything that comes through, you will be well and truly informed ASAP. I've got Riley on standby. If you have any questions in relation to Zucoins, you've got a couple of options. You can go to support@zucoins.com. If you've got anything on Zutopia, then it's support@zutopia.com. You've got z8digital.com. That database is exploding with information. You pretty well can answer everything you want. We've had certainly a massive decline and drop in people having queries about the wallets and how to do this and that. That's been fantastic. The removal of the copy and paste, it's still there as a backup, don't get me wrong, because Robert's really conscious of any issues that may occur in terms of the main networks or 5G or dropouts and all that sort of stuff. You can still use the transferability. You've got the instant notifications, which is massive. That's been an absolute godsend. Love that side of it. The little bits that you'll soon see down the road of encrypted messaging, which is a absolute ripper. That's going to change the privacy mechanisms and balance that out with the public mechanisms that we have in train, hence the compliance with AUSTRAC on the one hand and your sovereign control on the other, which is huge, huge. So with all of that, have a great one. We'll definitely be in touch. You can go to myzucoins.org, as I said. Keep an eye on that because that's Robert's little pet project there with getting information out. He's got some new tweaks coming for developers. Again, we welcome all you developers. You've been unbelievable. Your flow of inquiries is exactly what we'd hoped for, is huge. And some of the ideas, I take my hat off. That's what this has been all about. It's not just about one or two parties making money. We want lots of billionaires, and that can happen because of the way the project's designed. If you think about the autobahns in Europe, another analogy for my great friends, you build an 8-lane autobahn. You don't care if a Porsche or a Lamborghini is ripping past you at 400 miles an hour because it's built and designed for both the Volkswagen and the Volvo and also those high-speed cars, because everybody gets the fruits of the benefit of the core infrastructure being built. Unlike here in Australia, we wouldn't even be able to do that speed if you wanted to think about it, going from Albury to Melbourne because of the high risk profile of all our potholes. But there you go. That's what governments do here, not over there. Same with some of the expansion in China. Another phenomenal place of infrastructure development, bullet trains, all that stuff that comes with it. And away you go. Now, we've got, we just got another little one here. Let's just see. A couple there I'll wind up because it's getting late. But talkative user question. We've been close to flicking the switch for a while. This time I'm feeling it's different. Nothing worthwhile or difficult happens overnight. fellow runner here, 100 miles. Well done, talkative user, constant forward motion. Yes, I think we'll just hone in on your comment there about flicking the switch for a while. You're referring to possibly Zutopia because the switch has been flicked on Zucoins and it's back in for 4 years or more now, trading very successfully as a peer-to-peer infrastructure. We're talking about, yes, the timelines of Zutopia. You're spot on, and as a fellow runner, you will appreciate exactly the analogy I've used in that regard, which is a forward motion, which is awesome. Now, we've got someone here that says it can't get into Z8. Just send a note to support@zucoins.com. They have been playing around with that site. That's Pete. Yeah, and email some issues you've got there. No dramas at all. Where we go. So look, have a great one, everybody. We shall regroup on Thursday. We shall obviously share any wisdoms on Thursday. Try and understand some of the things that Dr. Zu talks about on analogies, because everything is open slather. Everything can relate to Zucoins and SplitChain. There is no doubt in Dr. Zu's mind. If you've got some topic you think can't relate to it, I am open to challenge. I'm open to a challenge as to what wouldn't fit in with our Zuconian world, because there's not much out there that doesn't. And I'd be happy to have a go at that one. So cheerio, everybody. Enjoy. Really look forward to Thursday. I'm really hoping we get some action, and we'll go from there.